Welcome everyone to this Unification Theological Seminary virtual faculty roundtable. My name is Stephen Boyd and I am the Dean of Enrollment Management and Student Life at UTS, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you today that are joining us from many different places around the world. In this setting, the faculty members of UTS are invited to share on an academic topic or an area of research of interest to the greater UTS community. We're very happy to have with us today on this webinar students, staff, and faculty and alumni from the New York City area, from across the United States and North America, and from various countries around the world, and many of you in different time zones. So thank you for making the time to join us this evening. I would like to remind everybody to kindly keep their microphones on mute during the program so as not to disturb the speaker's presentation. Also, questions during the webinar will be received through the chat box at the bottom of your screen. We will gather them and they'll be directed to our speaker in our Q&A session. So please feel free to type your questions into the chat box at any time during the program. Also, I will be sharing my contact information and some links of interest about programs of study and applying to UTS during the course of the program, so please take note of that. If you're interested yourself in studying at UTS, please feel free to reach out to me. Or if you know of anyone who might be interested in studying, please feel free to share the same links and contact information with them. So to begin our program, I'm very pleased and honored to invite up UTS President Dr. Thomas Walsh, who will act as our host and moderator today. Dr. Walsh is a 1979 graduate of Unification Theological Seminary, and he went on to earn his PhD at Vanderbilt University School of Religion, where he specialized in the study of religion and ethics. Dr. Walsh wears many hats. He has a long career of successful service to our true parents and to our unification movement for decades, really. And also, in addition to his role as UTS president, Dr. Walsh also serves as chairman of the Universal Peace Federation International. So let's welcome up Dr. Walsh. Dr. Walsh?
Well, thank you very much for that kind introduction, Dean Stephen Boyd, and for putting this wonderful program together with Dr. Thomas Ward, who is my immediate predecessor as president of UTS and currently serving as our provost. I'm excited about our topic tonight, exploring unification faith in the world's religions, a comparative study. And even more excited that we'll be learning about this topic from none other than Dr. Lounne Rouse. We're very proud that he is Adjunct Associate Professor of Ministry here at UTS, while also serving as National Co-Chair of the American Clergy Leadership Conference. He's an ordained United Methodist Minister, retired from the ministry, but by no means retired from his life's work. For 20 years, he's been a counselor and involved in pastoral care, author of books, and a marriage and family therapist, and Lieutenant Commander of the U.S. He should also be the UN Reserve, but he's the U.S. Naval Reserve Chaplain Corps Lieutenant Commander. He did his DMin at Lutheran Theological Seminary in Columbia, South Carolina, and his MDiv at Gammon Seminary in Atlanta. So, Dr. Rouse, we're delighted that you're our featured speaker for this evening's faculty roundtable. Thank you for being here. Thanks for all you do for UTS, for our students, for the collegiality and excellence of our faculty and academic tradition at UTS, and for your service to ACLC. So, sir, please take the floor. Dr. Lounne Rouse.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. And it is always a joy and a pleasure to be in your company. Marie and I think the world of you and Dr. Lynn Walsh. You just number one. God bless all that you do. And Dr. Thomas Ward, we feel likewise about your couple and the history that comes with your wife to the United States of America cannot be ignored. Thank you for who you are. And Dean Boyd, listen, it's good to have you kind of narrate us into this process, and I look forward to talking more somewhat on this subject because we've got to deal with globalization in a sense when we come to talk about the unification movement because it is indeed worldwide. And Dr. Hachahan Moon is not shy in saying to us that we need to reach the 8.2 or more of the population of the world with the message, billion population of the world, with the message that God has for all of the world today to be restored. And that's one of the reasons why I want to bring this subject to us tonight. I'm going to be presenting a slide to you that speaks about the generality, but it's irrelevant without mentioning first and foremost the call to everyone in the world at this time from the one that I know as being the woman in charge. We need to know the history of Father and Mother Moon, Reverend Sun Young Moon and Dr. Hachahan Moon, the founders of the Unification movement. But we also need to know, most importantly, that they were called to the mission that they are on. And that this mission is not a mission that is in opposition to Jesus Christ. This mission is a mission that is in fulfillment of the mission originally brought into the world with the origination of human relations, that man and woman to be in right relationship with God. This restoration is to take place in this providential ordering of time. And if we come and study at what I call the best seminary to study in the world today, because it is the one that is bringing forth the whole truth, and as they say in the legal system, nothing but the truth. I want to go to our slide tonight that we may walk through together. Let's see. Stephen, I may have to ask you to help me a little bit here. I had it up at one. Here we go. Now let's get
There you
back.
go.
Telling me that there's a certain place I go.
Yeah,
Okay,
go to the very bottom there, Dr.
Here we
Ross.
go.
There you go.
Now, there we are. So, scholars of unification thought and other religious views, I welcome you this evening to this presentation on a comparative study of world religions. First, crediting the works of Hans Kuhn regarding his later years as influential on offering an introduction and points for consideration. Stephen, here we go again. Something else is happening.
You can use your arrow keys on your keyboard if you want, or you can just click your mouse and it slide. There you go. It advanced. There you go.
So he was a Swiss theologian, recently ascended in April of 2021, I believe it was, but was a Catholic priest who worked to find commonalities in the ethics of all religions as a means towards peace. He sought to look at what the social ordering and rules that were acceptable in the various areas and the impact of religion on those. He believes that all religions share a common core ethical values that may help us to embrace one another for world peace. His idea that all religions have a shared set of ethical values, such as love, justice, and respect for others. He argued that by recognizing and embracing these values, we can create a more peaceful world. He also argued that religious differences should not be used to divide people, but rather should be seen as a source for us to work with one another in a most impressive way. I want us to, let's see, Stephen, I want to go back here, and it's not letting me.
You can, if you want to go back, you can click the left arrow button on your keyboard.
Yeah, so he wants us to go into a full strength in unity in our work. And in the field of religious studies, I want to make a real distinction between theology and religious studies. But when we look at theology, we somewhat go back into the old school presentation of the idea of God and what God would have on us, and we establish our doctrinal work and our theological tasks. But in religious studies, it's where we open the window of opportunity to talk about how we may have a difference in our theological points of views or our opinions, but we can come to a table of inclusivity on our ideas and have his ideas have been adopted by many religious leaders and organizations, and he feels that all of us can reach that same point in coming together to talk. His work has been used to promote interfaith dialogue and understanding and to foster peace and harmony between the different religious groups. He and his works were foundational to the planting of the Joseph B. Bethea United Methodist Church in Horry County of South Carolina, where I was the founder and first pastor to ground the church in search for peace by racial harmony. In that time, we were able to start that church with different faith groups helping Baha'i, Jews, Hindus, and Buddhists. And we continue to have that church, though I brought it back into the United Methodist Church denomination, but not for exclusivism, but at that time, inclusism. What we're going to go to tonight to say, leaving that theological format, we come to a religious study format where we can compare our differences and similarities to get past the challenges and take advantage of the opportunity to create possibilities for a true, lasting peace. This is what makes the main grounds for comparative study in world religions. World religions such as those that I have mentioned and others that have a great influence in shaping the history and culture of many societies around the world. At UTS, we find that we have those such as Dr. Frank Kaufman, who is really deep in working with other religions, who can help us in understanding the uniqueness and the beliefs and practices and rituals of all of them and what they have had to profoundly impact human society today. One may ask, what about that of one of the main sources that brings us, especially the American Clergy Leadership Conference, to this table, Christianity? Also at UTS, you will find the studies from Dr. Theodore Simio to be very helpful as he does a study of the comparative of Christianity to the unification thought. What I'm offering for us to do today is to bring to the mainstream of understanding unification thought and offer the comparatives of all of the other religions to this mainstream of thought now that we call new wine, offering an understanding of how Jesus Christ brought Father Moon and Mother Moon to this perfected understanding that he did not come for what we're going to be celebrating on next Friday, not this Friday, but the next week, as a Good Friday, to just give 7 messages from a cross. He came to give a main message for the true family that God desires in the world. And the cross became a disruption, but it could not be a defeat. It was only there as a disruption to the process, as historically we find always happened through the stories of the Old Testament, coming on into the New Testament with Jesus Christ. But in this age, our testament and witness is back to the main point that Jesus Christ made, that true parents are making to us in the world today. God's intention is for family and the relationship of family with God. Jesus came to restore that in fulfillment. Therefore, it is not over with the cross or the resurrection. It is not over until we all come back to where God originally would have us to be. So the proposition is for a comparative study of the world religions course that might provide an overview of the history of religious studies, debates in religious studies, and approaches to the study of religion. It begins by tracing the development of religious studies from its roots in the ending of the 19th century into the 20th century to its current status as an academic field. It then examines the various debates that have arisen in the field, including the nature of religion, the role of religion in society, and the relationship between religion and science. Finally, it could look at the various approaches to the study of religion, including the phenomenal work that happens by the Spirit of God, those things that we don't readily bring about a historical perspective as well as a theological perspective as well as a textual approach to understanding all that has transpired before, that is transpiring now, and what the world might look like when we complete the mission that God has for us. The course might conclude by noting the importance of religious studies in understanding the complexities of religion and its role in society. One of the first concepts that we need to gather tonight is the understanding of pluralism that the unification thought brings. I would argue that it is the one that brings best the reality of moving from exclusivism and even moving today from the thoughts of inclusivity as merely dialoguing with one another to really calling us to be global citizens and take note of multiculturalism, that all religions have a valid path toward God. If we go there, then we can offer today the validity of all religions. I like to say, as we work with the American Clergy Leadership Conference, that Christianity brings its mission. The unification movement gives that mission validity. Utilizing a comparative paradigm to examine various religious approaches to understanding world religion, including unification thought in their context and document. Religion has played a significant role in historical worldview paradigm, often serving as a source of authority and a way to explain the world. In the current worldview paradigm, however, religion is often seen as one of the many sources of knowledge and understanding, wherein, as stated before, inclusivism moves us to a multiculturalism so that we can embrace one another. The shift allows us to have a greater acceptance of our differences in religious beliefs and practices, while being open to the possibilities of not only dialogue, but collaborating between our different traditional faiths to reach a unity so that we can really synchronize our religious beliefs into forming a concept that is supported by the unification thought, that is a unity that moves us not just to being one body, but being a unified religion, meaning unified in our reach towards an understanding of God and significance in operating in a multicultural world, so that we take our place with secularism and science. As a matter of fact, when we look at our heritage and culture religions versus the conversion in doctrinal religions, we may discover that what we really have with secularism and science is really a language of God that is encaptured within religion. How can heritage and conversion religions come together to work on a humanitarian task? What are the potential benefits of such a collaboration? What strategies can be employed to ensure successful collaboration between heritage and conversion religions? How can the collaboration be sustained over time? What are the potential challenges that could arise from such a collaboration? Thirdly, we need to look tonight to think about religious relativism, the idea that all religions are equally valid and that each has its own unique truth. Is this concept supported by unification thought? Might all religions have valid paths to God, and that each has its own unique truth? We will be going again to South Korea, and I hope that we have an opportunity to go to family church that are found in Seoul, Korea, where in front of that church is a representation of Confucius, Buddha, Jesus, the Quran for Muhammad. This is the thought pattern that will help us understand where we need to be in this changing world. Just a few more slides and we'll take a break. The study of theology focuses on the interpretation of religious texts and doctrines, while religious studies examines the history, culture, and practices of various religions. Theology is more focused on the theoretical aspects of religion, while religious studies are more focused on the practical application of religion. Theology can be applied to practical ministries by providing a deeper understanding of religious texts and doctrines, while religious studies can be applied to the practical ministries by providing a better understanding of the history, the culture, and the practices of the various religions that have brought us to our existential situation here and now, and lead us from where it is looking to where God would have it truly appear. The combination of anthropology of religion, the comparative languages that we need in religion, phenomenology of religion, philosophy of religion, so psychology of religion and sociology of religion into a unified study of religion could be beneficial to the search for peace. By understanding the various aspects of religion, such as history, beliefs, and practices, we can gain a better understanding of how different religions interact with each other and how they can be used to promote peace. This understanding can help us to identify areas of potential conflict and to develop strategies to address them. Additionally, a unified study of religion can help us to better understand the motivation and beliefs of people of different faiths, which can help to foster mutual understanding and respect. Ultimately, this unified study of religion can help to create a more peaceful world. Now, I'm going to bring us to a halt here, but you can look at the announcements that I just made about these areas at some scholarship references that's there. And I'm going to be coming back to you in a moment, but I'm going to call up Dr. Walsh to kind of come into this roundtable for discussion. But as you come in, Dr. Walsh, I need to make this point very, very clear. All that I have stated to you so far, I've used one who I had experience with to give me motivation and sound thought in developing a church from an idea of inclusivity at the time, focusing primarily on ending racism. I utilized him to give that background to say that there is work that's there for us to compare with, to bring it. But I want it to be absolutely clear. The motivation for Marie and I with this study now is what we have discovered in Reverend Song Young Moon and Dr. Ha-Cha-Han Moon. For this, all that I have read to you on these slides, that's their message. That's their life. That's what they have lived. Not for an academic pursuit per se, but for the actualization of human lives. What I'm asking us to do today is to bring it fully into academia for an inclusive look and comparative so that those who've been in opposition to them will find a home with them. Dr. Walsh.
Thank you, Dr. Rouse. This is fascinating and extremely stimulating. I appreciate your reference to the late Hans Kung and his effort to bring together various scholars and leaders of religions to work out a global ethics. The United Nations came together guided by Eleanor Roosevelt to create the Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. And that was the work of the governments, although they certainly relied upon some theologians in the process and people with indeed religious and cultural backgrounds that were important. So we are seeing this effort to move from the e pluribus to the unum in various areas, including the effort of Hans Kung. And you spoke about the possibility of a unified religion. And as you know very well, that Father Mother Moon asked that a world scripture be put together that would give evidence to the claim that there is underlying the multiplicity of religions a common ground. And I think this is what you're addressing today, and that through the kind of academic study of religion, both theology and religious studies, we can move closer to understanding that ideal of unified religion. Now, one concept that I've sometimes heard is that religion can be understood more as a vehicle that leads us to a destination that some have described as being beyond religion itself, and that is, it could be the complete contemplative life where we reach some kind of mystical union with God at a higher stage, or that once the goal and objectives in our religions are fulfilled, we reach some kind of post-religious state where truth that we all share becomes more evident. Do you see that as consistent with your understanding of unification theology, unificationism?
Mother Moon made one statement early in 2023 that has stuck with me. She said it before, but it really resonated with me at the beginning of this year. God is the owner of the universe. When she made that statement, it brought to me a full understanding of this ministry of the cosmos that true parents have brought, and the reason why soon in May there'll be a cosmic blessing in search of fulfilling that mission that this true parents of humanity have been given to bring us into this full understanding. With that, I began to look and ask the questions within myself. Where have I been all of this time in studying the nature of reality and not truly emphasizing how the total universe, not just a section of us who come to what we consider to be this unique thought that we have of religion and God, as if to say, we own God. We take ownership of God, and we're trying to exclude others who do not think the way we do about God. When she makes clear, no, it's God that owns the universe. We're not owning God. God is owning us. But we can come into the reality of feeling that connection because each one of us, including those who are yet to believe, can come into an appreciation of the salvific work that God works with us inside when we align ourselves with God's will.
There's a lot of good comments coming up in the chat box, but permit me just a couple of brief comments. If you'd care to elaborate, just to say a little bit more about this distinction that I believe you made between heritage religions and conversion religions. If you could say just a word about that. And finally, with my work with the Universal Peace Federation and with Father and Mother Moon over decades, this relationship between religion and peace, as you pointed out, is so critical, and that even the divisions among the religions contributes to geopolitical challenges that we see around the world, and how important that work is. So those are just a couple of further thoughts to hear you share with us.
Of course, for 42 more years, I worked very hard in the evangelistic conversion aspect of religion to convert people to the way in which I thought and practiced and walked in religion, and discovered that a closer walk with Jesus was a walk in the lineage and heritage. And I found, and Marie and I found, in being close with Father and Mother Moon, and those of you who are walking this walk of heritage.
He always talks about his wife.
That we really come into a lineage. And that lineage relationship is about the history with God. And that God is not leaving anybody out of the possibilities. a God who would mark Cain, but not destroy Cain, was not looking to convert Cain, but was looking to love Cain and still give Cain the freedom that is needed. That same God is loving everybody and will bring them from every culture into a loving relationship if we can just help them in that reality.
Thank you, Dr. Rouse. I think it's better that we let you carry on, and please, there's a number of people that want to dialogue with you. So as you wrap it up, I hope we will have time to hear more from you in a more dialogical format. But please proceed. I know you have more to share before we move into that Q&A session.
Thank you. I wanted us to go now to the work again where we began.
Dr. Rouse, be sure to click the full screen mode at the bottom there again, please.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
There you go.
There we go. So I wanted us to come. So as we begin with Hans Kohn, I want us to go there again because he brings into full view who can really benefit from the work that is daily for the unification movement, that all of us can move toward. And he made the call towards being employed and commissioned by the University of Chicago to do a study of all the religions of the world. And we can find his work still today with the foundation of a global ethic. But in his work, and when I first came to work with him, he was publishing this book in 1991, Global Responsibility, in Search of a New World Ethic. I invite us to read this work. It's still relevant for us today. And we will find that work, Dr. Walsh, Dr. Ward, Dean Boyd, that True Mother has all of us on the path with, and the United Nations on the path with. Dr. Walsh, I believe you was the first one that I heard truly embracing this when we were in Korea, that we must move toward this universal values that Hans spoke of. Also, we must work towards mutual prosperity. And we must work in the world today towards what I call an economic interdependence. When we're operating in these modes, we begin to move towards this holy community that True Mother is wanting us to build in the various locations throughout the world. It relates very clearly with what students and I have been studying in the last 2 years. And I've asked the Young Christian Leadership Conference and the World Christian Leadership Conference to join the American Clergy Leadership Conference and looking at it too. The beloved community that Martin Luther King Jr. embraced, others embraced. And we can look at these works from Hans Kohn and find that they speak the relevance of how this is not just one religion. As Martin Luther King Jr. found a truth in the work of Gandhi, we can find truths in the work of those who are on the pathway to God's understanding. Through this work that we can have from various resources, but the one that I embrace so closely with Father and Mother Moon, from this traditional disciples of Jesus Christ working towards grasping this understanding, but placing it in an academic way. What I love about Father and Mother Moon is that they believe that we are to be of the highest intelligence, But what good is it for us to have the highest intelligence and not walk the walk of humanity with God? The heavenly parent that we have, I believe, will bless us in a comparative study on world religions where we can emphasize that a global ethic of what is called true love, absolute love, obedience with God, obedience that brings us together to bridge the gap between us in order to create a more peaceful and just world. In conclusion, by way of ethical commonalities, all religions are valid, and each has its own unique truth, yet in unity can lead the path to a cooperative world peace. Unification thought provides a framework for understanding this concept and provides a way to combine all religions into one unified religious course on the pathway to cooperative world peace. Father and Mother Moon brought together the American Clergy Leadership Conference, a conference that can look back historically at how the Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity was right from its beginning. At this foundation of the mission of Jesus Christ is what we call Christianity. When we come together and understand the true identity of Jesus, the real mission and purpose for Jesus being in the world, we will come to understand a uniting force of love that's so powerful that it will bring us to the understanding of loving our Creator, our Heavenly Parent, God, Father, Mother of all of the universe, who longs, whose heart cries out for all people of God from all walks of life, not only to find a pathway to God, that we could do in exclusivism, not only to find a way to just get along in the world, that we could find in inclusivism. He wants us to find a way to the ultimate of all relationships, loving God in the fullness of all that we are, and loving one another as we would have the others to love us. That is the totality of true love. That is a foundation of loving within our household, couples and children, children with brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, reaching out into all of the world as filial sons and daughters, and saying we are one in the Spirit, with the one God, with the one love, in the one world. This, we believe in, will move us on the path that true parents, and specifically here today, True Mother has asked of us. It is a pathway to ending violence and uplifting true love. Let us make that pathway to a beautiful world of peace, a world of reconciliation, a world of absolute obedience. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Dr. Lounne Rouse, for a magnificent presentation this evening that I think is extremely stimulating. I think I can hear people typing their messages to Dean Boyd to sign up for your course that you proposed. So thank you. A lot of interesting comments in the chat column. So I'd like to move to some of those. And, a couple of people commented on your use of the term syncretism, which sometimes is viewed as, picking in a cafeteria of religions, you have your tray and you pick what you like. And Elio Roman thought that was a little troubling to him. And Jim Edgerly asked, would it be better to differentiate more strongly between pluralism and recognizing pluralism and this concept of syncretism? So if you'd care to just comment on that.
Yes, the ultimate is going to be in our current reality, moving towards a global family where the pluralism and multiculturalism is really there. But before we get there, we must realize the syncretism that is existing and give respect to those ages of time of religion, or we'll continue to have the divide that often leads to war and division. So that's why I use that term, to give respect to that current existence. And once given it respect, then we can come in from the various heritages and the historical perspectives and bring in the understanding for our unity. And I think with that, we will be able, I should say, we cannot avoid that the moments of resentment, but we can meet resentment with understanding and meet people where they are. And a key to it, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because we'll continue to look at it and don't throw that away. It's just that we've got to find the right ingredients to it, because it all comes down to communication. It really does. We have to be able to communicate with one another from the distinct, unique positions where we are. That brings us to a place where I can take your hand and our hearts meet.
Yeah. Now, our very own Dr. Brown raises a question whether creating one unified religion, will life become boring? As if we enjoy the multiplicity of cultures and religions and learning from one another.
Hey, that's a good one to come from Dr. Brown, because I remember his great work in Harlem and all of the places that he goes. Yeah, Dr. Brown, let's talk about that a little more. But I think that it's going to make it more exciting. And the reason why I would hope that, let me say it that way, I would hope that it would make it more exciting, but I can learn a lot from you, because you've given great thoughts to it in working with the various people in the various cultures of the world. Part of what my thinking was, Dr. Brown, was what I found in working towards inclusivity in state of South Carolina. People made these excuses about wanting to stay in a certain stream or pattern with songs or dancing or emotional expressions, and others would make this distinction of wanting to stay with this intellectual format in the delivery and understanding of the world. And like you said, Marie and I going to these different places, it did bring some sense of, wow, we got this today. Wow, we got this, and we'll be looking forward to this the next day. But then the most beautiful service I've ever experienced was when 9/11 took place. And I said to our church here in Greenville, South Carolina, oh, we're bringing everybody. And at first they thought, well, that's going to burn the church down. Somebody's going to come burn it down. Oh, no, God is going to destroy it. And then what they found is, when we went through the Christian 30 minutes of experience and then gave 5 minutes of experience to every other religion that would come. Those who were skeptical at the end felt what we had hoped for. This is how we should always be, able to come together and make a beautiful mosaic that really excites each of us. I hope it would. I'll pray with you, Dr. Brown. Help me make it exciting for everybody.
Well, in response to that, I would say that what we need is an invasion from outer space by aliens, which would force all of humanity, nations, races, religions, to confront a common threat. Like you very well said, 9/11 brought people together. Maybe we need a 9/11.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Brown.
Yeah.
Just if I can continue with a few more, Dr. Rouse. One issue that Magnus Larson brings up is about
that. Maybe that's what we need.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you. That Magnus Larson brings up about those that are not religious. He facetiously uses the term, "What about the heathen who doesn't subscribe to any of the religions? How are they incorporated into this worldview?"
The thing that I love
you've
about
spoken to this already, but maybe you could underscore the point.
Yeah. The thing that I love about this, Magnus, is that we're not bringing it into the theological format of our doctrine or our theological task. When we go to religious studies, everybody has history. Everybody has culture. Everybody has beliefs. And I found in our work, even with those recent work, with those who are gang members and those who struggle and traditional thought patterns would classify them heathen or whatever. But in this pattern, this really gets me, because this is a true mother thing right here. This is nobody but a true mother thing. When being chairman of the American Clergy Leadership Conference, you run into human flaws. And I would want to go, but that human flaw, I would say, okay, I'm done with it. Okay, you got to go over here. You can't be here anymore. And true mother says, love them. Love them. We're not losing them. Love them. Love them. They are all my children. In her prayer to God was they are coming to me. Ooh, you can't beat that, Magnus. And that's what religious studies will do, will say to us, those people over here, there, whatever, by whatever they've been called, they are of the one creator. Love them.
One of our experiences, Dr. Rouse, in the encounter with other religions is not only that we will sometimes see the common ground, but we'll learn something that heretofore we didn't quite appreciate, either in our own tradition or was represented in our own tradition. And this is a point that Reverend Hempowitz brings out, that from his experience, many times looking at an issue through the eyes of another religious perspective can enhance our own and kind of expand and enrich our perspective. Even I know of people who, after their studies of religion, and are asked, "What's your religion?" They speak more of a hybrid language where it's not as easily represented by a single perspective, because they've learned so much from Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, etc., if they are coming from a Christian background. Do you have any experiences like that?
One recent shaking of my world was when I had begotten one of the earliest teachings that my father and my mother had given me. Both of them were preachers too. And I found that I had begun to think too much of my educational journey. And that was going into Louisville, Kentucky, when gang members did not need to know what brought me to earn degrees on my wall. They needed me to be present, to know nothing, but to learn with them. My father once taught me that Socrates says that the greatest point of recognizing your wisdom is when you know nothing. We need to reach a point of being present with everybody. And that shows the value of everybody. One of the things, Dr. Walsh, that I'd like to talk to you and Dr. Ward about more, and I know Dr. Brown already knows about this because he's been a model of it for me when I first started telling people about it in Harlem. We all need to be street theologians. We need to learn in the reality of our existence, not just within some walls that we call sacred, safe areas. This totality of our existence ought to be where we learn.
Well, Dr. Rouse, we're running out of time. You've left us all wanting to hear more and discuss more and dialogue more. Please take some time to review the chat column. I'm just commenting. We don't have time to discuss it, but Susan Nishio brought out the important work of the U.S. Institute of Peace based in Washington and its efforts to work with the role of religion in peace. Dr. Ward and I will be at the Institute of Peace for a conference with the Academic Conference on the United Nations System in June, and looking forward to that. So I think we can also expand our partnerships to build this kind of movement of true love, as you talked earlier about it, and building this holy community. But I'm going to give you just a final comment before I turn it back over to Dr. Ward. Dr. Rouse.
Thank you very much. I hope that we all can come to appreciate that our Heavenly Parent, God, is. And that every day we can go and not just say the words that are quoted often from the Bible of I am the great I am, but more, God is. And what is God to you? This is what a comparative religious study will bring us to, is the reality of who God is to each of us. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful ending, beautiful throughout. Thank you. We learned a lot. I certainly did. And I leave this conversation uplifted and enriched and inspired. Thank you, Dr. Rouse. Thank you for all of those who made time to be here this evening and for sharing your insights and comments in the chat column. I want to turn it back over to Dean Boyd to close this out for the evening. Dean Boyd.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Walsh, and thank you, Dr. Rouse, again for a really engaging presentation, thought-provoking, and I think moving. And as Dr. Walsh expressed, thank you to all of you who came today. This is a way that we hope that the seminary can be of service to our wider unification community. So we hope that you enjoyed the program tonight. In the coming days, we'll be announcing our next faculty roundtable presentation in the month of April. So please be on the lookout for an email inviting you to attend. So I just want to thank everyone again for being here. Thank you, Dr. Walsh, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come. And we know, Dr. Rouse, also thank you. You're an extremely busy man. We really appreciate your contribution this evening. So maybe to close the program, let's just, you're welcome to unmute your microphone. And if you'd like to greet Dr. Rouse, en masse, and say hello to everyone, we'll do that for a couple of minutes and we'll close the program. So thank you, everybody, for coming. God bless you. We'll see you next time.